Right now, we are in the in-between as I decide what I want to do and if I want to jump in to WWE 2K24 or not. But in that in between, we have Supreme Wrestling and TEW to keep us occupied. With that being said, let's jump in to week 3, June week 3 episode of Slamfest. As we got a few pre-show matches to get through before we get to the actual show, and Tim Morton is one of the many people that graduated our academy, and we actually have a sellout at the Virginia Park Fields in the Mid-Atlantic region, so it is always nice to see a sellout, but I'd also point out that Damon Carruthers shows why he has more value in a tag team than as a singles. Luis Montero did exactly what I thought he would do on the pre-show. A very solid pre-show match, but it gives Luis Montero the opportunity to work. And Dean Ward, another graduate from the academy, puts over the Maxed Outlaw, which I believe this is the Maxed Outlaw's first win since joining the company. But now we move to the first the first match on the show, which is Sam Keith versus Deacon, I don't know why I'm saying it like that, Deacon Polo, and Sam Keith gets the victory with the Proton Lock. Last we saw Sam Keith, he was helping fellow All-Star team member Adrian Romero retain the Shooting Star title at the pay-per-view against Malcolm Rogue. But now we move to the opening segment, or the first segment, where Antonio Moretti makes it clear that Angus is next challenger, that the important decision will be made tonight. Who will challenge Angus McLeod at Supreme Challenge? The challenger will be decided tonight. Malcolm Rogue defeats Hector Randall. Malk is trying to get back on the winning track after losing to Adrian Romero last week and figuring out if he's still capable enough to go for the Shooting Star title. Like, can he defeat the All-Star team? Can he overcome the numbers? And that's where Sam Strong comes in, because Sam Strong worked with him during the Battle Bowl and teamed up with him during the Battle Bowl. So Malcolm Rogue mentions, he basically goes along and says, Adrian, we're not done yet, but I got to deal with your friend Sam Keith first. But Sam Strong appears and tells him, no, Malk, you got to stay focused. Sam Keith is not the answer. Sam Keith is not the answer. Focusing on him is not the answer. Focusing on Adrian Romero is the answer, because Sam Keith is not the one who beat you. Adrian is the one who beat you. Adrian is the one who has the championship. Sam Keith doesn't. You just prove that you can beat one of the All-Star team cronies if you beat Sam Keith. But you beat Adrian Romero, you become Shooting Star champion, and do exactly what you set out to do once again. So focus on what you know you want to do. Sam Strong is going to be penciled in as basically one of Malcolm. I'm going to try and allow Sam Keith to try and help Malcolm Rogue become more of a star, and basically pencil him in as sort of a mentor to Malcolm Rogue, because it would also not only bring Malcolm Rogue forward, but it would give Sam Strong something to do outside of being penciled in as a lackey to Mickey Starr, or the second in command to Mickey Starr. I don't want to call him a lackey because I don't know that lackey is the right word. I don't know it's the wrong word, but I don't know it's the right word. You know, um, but that's just my take. And speaking of mentors and proteges, Ray Kingman has taken on Dave Bellington as his protege. But this is seeing as an interruption from Blake Cooper, as Blake basically points out that Ray Kingman is seemingly happy that he ran Richie Pangrazio out of Supreme, made him lose his mind and run him away. Ray Kingman interrupts Blake and basically tells him, "Look, you want to keep talking, I'll run you out of town too. So either you keep your mouth shut and talk about what you can talk about, or get in the ring and let us teach you why I ran Richie Pangrazio out of Supreme Wrestling." And that leads to a tag team match: Ray Kingman and Dave Billington versus Chip and Blake Cooper. Dave actually beats Blake Cooper. Dave Billington actually assisted Ray Kingman in the feud with Richie and the All Star team, and Dave was also looked at as, Ray Kingman basically told Dave last year, "Stay on track. You got a lot of potential, kid. I see a lot of myself in you." Basically they planted the seeds last year, and now we're going with what we were going with last year. Like what started last year, we're going with it this year: a tag team with Ray Kingman and Dave Billington. But it is not officially a tag team. They're more or less because Ray Kingman is still the United States champion. So they're not going to focus on being a tag team because it would take away from Ray Kingman's United States championship reign. And as we mentioned earlier, the championship committee, which is, for those who may not be aware, Ken Cullen, Richard Eason, and Antonio Moretti, are the championship committee, and they will be making the decision later tonight who will be the number one contender to Angus McLeod, either Mickey Starr or Hollywood Mike Kinsey. It will be announced later tonight. But we do also have Wildman again. That's the best Dredd has ever done in any match that he's had. The fact that Dredd actually got a 70, he jumped up at least 8 from his last in-ring performance, which is absolutely insane. So I'm at a bit of loss for words right now. So I don't really know what to say. Honestly, I'm a bit at a loss for words right now. So I don't know what to say. To be frank. Rick Rumble comes back and does one of his best in ring performances against the Max Patriot. I know both guys are babyfaces, but part of running Supreme is occasionally putting the best against the best. And though neither one of them are champions, they are two of the best. It shows in their in ring performance. And also the fact of the matter is, neither one of them really have anything going on right now. So the fact, it's more important getting them on TV than it is not getting them on TV, if that makes sense. But now we move to the official announcement, as Brooklyn Punk and Stardust are set to team up against Alex Pierce and Angie Lee in 2 weeks. They are, well, no, not in 2 weeks. 2 weeks would be July 1st. In 3 weeks at Supreme Challenge, they are set to team up against one another. The reason why I'm not doing it next week on Slamfest and instead I'm doing it at the pay-per-view is honestly because it gives me the opportunity to test it out and make sure that and Stardust and Brooklyn Punk don't have bad chemistry as a tag team, and that Angie Lee and Alex Pierce don't have bad chemistry as a tag team. And also, it gives me the opportunity to give and Stardust a little bit more time to work with some of the top stars in the company, like Babbitt, the Flames, like Babbitt and the Flames, and having it help her just like it's helped Brooklyn Punk since the beginning of the year, since the end of last year when he started working with Babbitt and the Flames. I know this could have led to and Stardust competing with Brooklyn Punk tonight, but also and Stardust having a singles match is just as important. And the fact that Valerie Gordy, who is another graduate from our academy, topped topped the list of in-ring performances thus far, comparatively to Mr. Ward and the guy who competed in the first Tim Morton. That she, you know, that she got 10 more, no, 14 more than what Mr. Ward did, and like outperformed Tim Morton tremendously. And honestly, she's showing a lot brighter of a future is Valerie Gordy than Holly Pewter did last year. So props to Valerie Gordy in a very solid debut. As now the Sam Keith feud continues, as Clint Wayne tries to reason with Sam Keith again. I don't know what to do. Sam doesn't need, because Sam doesn't need the coach. He doesn't need coach. He has a bright future. Me and Ken Cullen pushed him in that direct. We made sure to teach him the basics, and because we saw that he didn't need much help. He didn't need much help. He just needed a confidence boost. He just needed to right the ship of his confidence. And once he did that, he would be able to conquer the world. And then Coach interrupts because Ken Cullen is actually standing there with Clint Wayne agreeing with him. Coach interrupts and basically lets him know, you need to understand, Clint. Sam Keith is not your protege anymore. He's mine. And the fact of the matter is, you think that he didn't need anything more than a confidence boost? You're wrong. You were making him into you, and you were making him into Ken. You were making him into Sam Keith. You were trying to make him you. You were trying to make him Ken. Because Ken Cullen and Clint Wayne don't have the same star power as Sam Keith. So you wanted to live vicariously through him, and that was negatively impacting your ability to provide proper mentorship. Because Clint, I remember you when you were younger, and you were one of the toughest son of a guns in professional wrestling, and now you're just looking at it. You're just looking at me with bags under your eyes, like you're a tired, run-down shell of your former self, hanging on by a thread. Maybe you should follow Ken Cullen and retire. Because fact is, Sam Keith made the best decision of his career when he decided to side with the All-Star team. Kronos gets himself a jobber match and gets himself a little bit more proper momentum building with Kronos a couple of weeks ago putting over Hollywood Mike Kinsey. The initial plan was a major feud for Kronos with Mickey Starr, but number one, that's still happening. But number two, it doesn't need to happen right away because in the position that Kronos is in right now, Kronos would probably lose. And it wouldn't go the way that I initially intended it to go because he contributed more of his popularity to Knight Rider than Knight Rider contributing it to him. And since then, he really hasn't gotten back much popularity to be able to contribute. I mean, to be able to properly compete with Mickey Star. And the fact of the matter is, I'm trying to figure out what the proper next step is, and that's where this week's episode of Slamfest comes in, figuring out where we go at Supreme Challenge. And speaking of where we're going at Supreme Challenge, Dusty Streets takes the mic and Dusty makes it clear. The reason why I gave that look, some people might say, why were you unhappy that your father was shaking hands with Romeo Hart? Why were you unhappy that your father brought out the more positive side of Romeo? That he made Romeo find himself. That he made Romeo prove that he has changed. The reason I looked at the situation the way I looked at the situation is because, again, my father got involved in something that he had no business in. Instead of focusing on us winning Battle Bowl, instead of focusing on us being in the position of Ace McQueen and Blackjack heading to Supreme Challenge to challenge the World Tag Team Champions, he's helping Romeo Hart discover that he has changed. The fact of the matter is, my father focuses his attention on shifting between so many different things. He can't stay focused on just one thing because he wants to help. He wants to be that helper. He wants to be that guy and undo his past mistakes. We talked about 1979. We talked about my injury in 1980, but I want to say something, and I want to say this loud and clear. Oh, yeah?
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, no, it was good. I'll send you pictures. My feet were freezing. I was freezing. I was scratching. I was getting because it was so cold that I wish I had socks on.
That my father doesn't just focus on me. That's not what I'm saying. It's that the name Streets used to carry a lot of weight. It used to be important, and maybe now I'm thinking about the fact that when my father said that my brother was acting out, I should have been the one to strike out on my own and stray away from the Streets name. Because the more he branches out, the more he looks for attention elsewhere, the more I think maybe the Streets of Rage needs to be a part of a bygone era. Basically, Dusty is pointing to the idea that maybe it's time to move on from teaming with his father and being a tag team star instead of doing what's best for the family. He wants to do what's best for Dusty. And now we move to the main event, as this is the first time in quite a long time that Mickey Star actually is in the main event of a Slamfest. And Mickey is in the main event of a Slamfest against Knight Rider, which I think, honestly, it's a solid main event, but it shows why Knight Rider at least does better in tag team matches, because his tag team matches were just a little bit better than his singles matches. Not to say that this match is not a good main event. It was a good main event, and also it furthers both stories with Mickey against Angus and Artie Goldstein trying to get the attention of the tag team champions, Knight Rider and Mayhem. But Mickey wins by dubious means with Artie Goldstein causing a distraction, and if you want to know how it continues Angus and Mickey, Aries was at ringside. And now we got the announcement who will face Angus McLeod at Supreme Challenge in July. The winner, the choice from the championship committee, was Mickey Starr will get his deserved rematch because when Angus McLeod won the title back in April, Angus won with help from Aries. So the fact is, with the help that he got from Aries, Mickey Starr never got his title rematch because he was taken out by Kronos and Hagar. And that led to both Hollywood and Sam Strong getting title opportunities instead. But now the question is, Angus McLeod, can Angus McLeod beat Mickey Starr? Or will Mickey get his title back? And if it is Mickey getting his title back, what does that mean for Angus? What does that mean for Aries? What does that mean for Hollywood? You know, you could tell Hollywood is disappointed that he wasn't given the title. Basically, Antonio Moretti explains that the championship committee came to after careful consideration, the championship committee decided, due to the results of the match back in April and Mickey Starr never getting his rightful rematch, Mickey Starr will be the one challenging Angus McLeod for the World Championship in July. And Hollywood Mike Kinsey just looks over at Antonio Moretti. He looks over at Mickey Starr and looks at Angus McLeod and just starts shaking his head with a scowl on his face, disappointed that he was not chosen to challenge Angus McLeod at the biggest pay-per-view of the year for Supreme Wrestling. But what I will say is, I didn't want to say it, so I'm going to save it for now. This segment right here is 100% a part of the bigger picture. With that being said, I also just want to note, yes, an earlier segment did say that Hollywood would host this. My initial idea was that Hollywood, with his red carpet show, his red carpet interview segment, would host this, be handed an envelope by the ring announcer, and the envelope would read who would challenge for the World Championship. The reason why I didn't go that way is because if Antonio Moretti was there, it made more sense for the matchmaker to announce the match instead. But either way, this is again a part of the bigger picture, and I know there's also a question, what about going internationally? I would love the idea of going internationally, but I think I need broadcasting outlets first to make it a more feasible and financial decision that makes sense to do going internationally, because I barely make money going to Puerto Rico and Hawaii at this point, because broadcasting does not necessarily reach out that far just yet in 1982. So even though I would love to go to Canada, or, the UK or places like that, we're just not at the position or at the point where that makes sense from a financial standpoint just yet. What is this going to lead to with Malcolm Rogue and Sam Strong? It, basically, it's just continuing their partnership from the Battle Bowl. And I'm not really sure what it's going to lead to just yet. Ray Kingman, I don't know who I want to have him challenge, defend his championship against just yet. So that's why he's teaming with Dave Billington to keep him on the show. Annie Stardust is teaming with Brooklyn Punk. And honestly, the reason why Ann Stardust is in this is because Beautiful Babbitt can't wrestle. That's number one. And number two, it allows members of the women's roster to get a little bit more popular because Athena is so much higher than everybody else as far as popularity is concerned, which then warrants the idea of, it points to the idea of everyone else needing to get a little bit more of a push because otherwise nobody's going to ever be able to touch Athena in popularity. And that's why Kimberly Evans is paired up with Larry Grubbs. That's why Ann Stardust is paired up with Beautiful Babbitt and Brooklyn Punk. Hell, that's why I thought about the All-Star team getting into the women's division and finding somebody for the women's, to help push up the women's roster. The one thing, I think that the Shooting Star title or the Cruiserweight title is in a more stable place because of Adrian, Malcolm Rogue, Lance Rush, the list goes on and on and on and on and on of people who could be viable challengers for that title. But the fact of the matter is, the women's championship is not in that position just yet. Because Athena has worked with her father and Sid for the last 2 years, so Athena has, jumped in popularity to a tremendous degree, so it prevents other people from being on her level because they haven't had the same ability of working with people so high above her that Athena has had because of her family. And I'm not saying that Athena only got that because of her family. It was the storylines that fit it. But either way, I also spontaneously just made a women's division, and that's why Ann Stardust was the first women's champion. It is just a question of maybe Athena should have been out of the women's division for a little bit longer. But at the same time, even if she was out of the women's division a little bit longer, that doesn't mean that it would have helped in popularity because popular women need to be in the division for other women to gain in popularity too. But with that being said, I don't want to say this is a part of the bigger picture because I feel like that's what I call every show. Almost. It is more, I would say this is more of a maintenance day. A maintenance show where, certain people are a part of the show that need, we're just progressing things, and we're trying to keep certain people like Ray Kingman and Wildman on the show and Rick Rumble on the show and Kronos on the show. And it's just progressing things at a pace, at a slower pace, yes, but at a pace where eventually, Ray Kingman will have a challenger for his United States title. Eventually, Rick Rumble will be doing something. Eventually, maybe we'll see Wildman and Dread against Knight Rider and Mayhem for the tag titles. Eventually things will happen, but at the same time, you're not supposed to spoil the surprise like that. You're supposed to, add to it and add to it and add to it, and just make it where the interest is still there when the surprise comes, but and where it's something that the people want to see. So I don't, it's not that I have a problem with saying this is a part of the bigger picture, because in some facets it is. It's just that I feel like I have said every show that I record to a degree is a part of the bigger picture, and then I don't end up showing where things lead. But we are 3 weeks out of Supreme Challenge, and I can tell you right now that the Supreme Challenge will be recorded on the YouTube channel. And, the one thing I want to say before I go is, if you want to see more Let's Play TEW, and you want to see more of Supreme Challenge, let me know in the comment section below. if you want me to record more of this and put more of this up, and not just once in a blue moon. But either way, let me know by the view. You can let me know down in the comment section, or you can let me know by getting this above 10 views to let me know that you guys want to see more of Supreme Wrestling. With that being said, though, that is it for me, and I will see you in the next one.